Hi and welcome to this edition of Sweden Today. It's fall here in Sweden and we have had more rain than usual for this time of the year. Everything has returned to normal after the long vacation. The schools are in full swing, industry is fully operational and the parliament has met in Stockholm. In fact, everything is as it should be, as in our program where we shall be presenting the latest news, views and reports from all over Sweden. So dear friends, here's our address. Please write to us and tell us where you watched the program. Sweden Today, 50006 Borås, Sweden. And here's our news. The whole area which provides reindeer meat has been blacklisted by the Swedish Food Production. It is estimated that even the reindeer north of the Great Luleå River contain cesium percentages over the limit of 300 becquerel per kilo. The nightmare has become a reality for us, says a representative of the Laplanders. The nuclear disaster at Chernobyl has created bitterness and throughout the stricken area where the raising of reindeer is the main industry. This is a threat to Lapp culture and our youth have a dark future before them, says Lars Pizza, chairman of the Lapp village near Gällivare in northern Sweden. Swedish farmers estimate a loss of around 200 million Swedish crowns as a consequence of the Chernobyl disaster. The security conference in Stockholm, which has been in session for the past 3 years, has now closed. The conference closed in mutual agreement and together the members have consented to several different statements, which will be the foundation for continuing security policies and confidence-building measures. An agreement has been reached that inspection can take place if any country believes that the rules of the agreement are not being followed. The final conclusion of the conference has limited the risk of war in Europe and laid the foundation for good international relations. For example, for the first time, the Soviet Union has agreed to accept inspection of its own territory. 35 countries have taken part in the Security Conference in Stockholm, which is now closed. A Swedish doctor has introduced a good, simple and harmless method of treating the discomfort and sickness caused by restless legs. More than 400,000 Swedes suffer from the sickness, which affects people of all ages. Senior physician Christian von Scheele of Sollefteå Hospital has treated 20 patients for restless legs. 17 of those treated have been cured of the trouble and for the first time could sleep properly. The esteemed British medical journal, The Lancet, has published von Scheele's remarkable findings. The number of tourists to Dalarna has increased by 30% during the period January till July this year compared to the same period last year. This means that Dalarna is now the second largest tourist area after the capital of Stockholm, which is still the leader. The number of tourists to Dalarna increased by 50% during the winter season, the greatest increase in Sweden. The gas drilling operation near Lake Siljan has created a new tourist attraction. Up to now, over 100,000 visitors have called to follow the hunt for gas. The Swedish textile branch is about to make a giant effort. With the help of a profiling program during the next 3 years, the textile branch intends to increase its prestige. Over 1,000 participants from Swedish companies gathered to emphasize the importance of the effort. At the same time, the latest Swedish spring fashions were presented. White, sun helmets, khaki and safari characterized the latest fashions, inspired by the film Out of Africa. The memory of Dag Hammarskjöld, former Secretary of the United Nations, have been celebrated all over the country. Today, it's 25 years since he was killed in a plane crash in Nudella in Africa. This monument has been raised at Dag Hammarskjöld's place in New York. The man-of-war ship Vasa, the biggest tourist attraction in Stockholm, is to be rehoused in a special museum, the Vasa Museum. The ship, which sank in the waters of Stockholm in 1628 with its crew, was raised to the surface in 1961 and has since become a tourist attraction at the Vasadijk in Djurgården. The new museum, which is estimated to cost 160 million crowns, will be financed by the state and private investors and will be ready by 1990. The train ferry Malmöhus, which commutes between Copenhagen in Denmark and Malmö in Sweden, is to finish operating after 41 years. The ferry has been bought by a Norwegian company, which intends to moor in the fjord at Oslo, where it will be converted into a theater restaurant. The Swedish ferry will soon be ready to receive the first of the guests in the Oslo fjord. The mine layer Karlskrona leaves shortly for what will be its longest voyage yet. At the end of October, the ship and crew leaves for a voyage visiting several ports around the world. It will be spring in Sweden before the ship returns to its Swedish port. Developments within the satellite TV and cable TV branch are taking place at a furious pace. Representatives from the US, Europe, Norway and Sweden recently met in Borås to exchange views on new developments in the field.
There are now 13 different communication satellites in the United States serving North America on a domestic basis, meaning that these are not satellites that are used to beam programming outside of the borders, but simply to the various cable systems, the home antennas, which we call backyard antennas. Right now, these satellites are all 4 degrees apart because the technology required them not to get too close together.
The Ball is the name of the latest building project in Sweden. It will be the biggest assembly hall for sports like ice hockey and football, but also for theater and musical events, future purposes, and video visionary happenings. The Ball is being built in Stockholm. This is how the model looks like. It is made by Berg's architect office in Stockholm. The Ball will be ready in time for the World Championship in ice hockey 1989. The great Swedish sailor Pelle Pettersson has been suddenly called in to compete in the American Cup, one of the great sailing events of the world. This time the competition will take place off the coast of Australia in the Indian Ocean near Perth. Pelle Pettersson, who made a good show with the boat Sweden a few years ago, will be assisting the Italian crew of the Challenger Azzurri Challenge. Half of the challenging crew, 6 in number, are Americans. How shall we live in the future? The Swedish housing expedition, Bo 86, has just taken place in Malmö in the south of Sweden. Here we didn't only learn about how we shall live in the future. In 15 places throughout the city of Malmö, you could see how to build a new house in an old environment, rebuild an old house, rejuvenate parks, and how to make a park out of an airfield. Naturally, we just couldn't resist reporting on this, one of the big exhibitions of the year. It was easy to notice that something was going on with the buildings and living environment in Malmö. The housing fair, Bo 86, was shown in different parts of the city. A Swedish lightweight concrete system, the Superex building system, was presented, here forming the entrance gateway. It is designed to require less machinery and fewer labor hours to install. It weighs only 25% of comparable concrete products. It is a structural material of autoclaved aerated concrete. It is available in blocks and large panels for floors, walls and roofs in all types of buildings. The panels can be placed into position using only a small crane and a crew of 3 men. In a single day, 5,000 square feet of roofing panels can be installed. The prefabricated load-bearing panels are composed of cement, sand and water. The panels, which come on lengths up till 20 feet, also feature dimensional stability and high insulation value that will reduce or eliminate the need for thermal insulation. The material offers twice the fire protection of concrete. These townhouses were built with Superex load-bearing wall and floor panels. The world's quickest park was built during the fair. Here, the governor of Malmö opens it for the public. The park was built in 24 hours. Everybody were welcome to join the big picnic that was being held. Another exhibitor was ABV, which began its operations in 1916. Today, it's one of Sweden's leading contractors with customers all over the world. Annual turnover to some 9 billion Swedish crowns or 900 million pounds. Projects abroad account for about 25% of the turnover. One area of particular interest is the development of low-energy housing. ABV presented several examples of how to keep energy costs down and at the same time retain an attractive living environment. This is a semi-detached house. It is air-heated and uses no electrical radiators. The special thing about this house is the so-called sunroom, a glazed veranda which is an integrated part of the house. The room is not actively heated and can be used as an extra living room with a small winter garden. The old park Kungsparken was renewed in many ways. Small gardens were built within the park. People were also able to go skating on a skating rink made of plastic. There was also a restaurant Kungsparken for those who got hungry. Tarkett, that has its 100th anniversary this year, showed their great knowledge of floors by installing a homogeneous plastic floor in the restaurant with a modern pattern that gives a living impression. In another room, King Oscar II's dining room, a wooden floor made of oak has been installed, and even the king's monogram can be found in the pattern. A special technique makes Tarkett able to offer any pattern or logotype in either plastic or wood. The remarkable Swedish peace action, the Great Peace Journey, starts the final lap. Sweden today met the dedicated Elisabeth Järler shortly before her departure, where she will lead the final lap, which covers a large area of the world.
What organizations are behind the Great Peace Journey?
Well, besides the peace organization as Women's International League for Peace and Freedom and the International Fellowship of Reconciliation and Women for Peace, then also the churches is backing this, the Swedish Ecumenical Council and the Swedish Red Cross and Save the Children Fund and many other popular organizations.
How had the first step of the peace journey turned out?
It was a great success. We, international European groups, visited 25 governments in Europe during 2 weeks in May 1985. And today, 21 governments representing NATO and Warsaw Pact and non-aligned neutral countries have said yes to all the 5 questions about future and human survival.
What parts of the world are you now going to visit?
Now international groups are going to visit Africa, Asia, Australia, the Pacific, Caribbean, Latin America and Canada. And finally we are going to approach the both 2 superpowers and visit Secretary Gorbachev and President Reagan.
And what persons are you going to meet in your second step?
Well, for instance, one group is going to meet Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in India. Another group has been promised to meet Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, the big African leader in Zambia. Another group is going to see Corazon Aquino in the Philippines on the 24th of October. Another group is going to China, and personally I'm going to the Pacific countries and I'm going to see Prime Minister David Lange in New Zealand and Bill Hayden, Minister for Foreign Affairs in Australia.
You have also produced a TV program. Did you get any reactions from that?
Yes, we have, from the most different parts of the world. Small groups had studied the videotape and they had really felt that the Great Peace Journey has relevance for their problems.
This journey must be very costly. How do you finance it?
Well, mainly through the white peace flower, which is being sold all over the world. but also by private donations. And I would like to recommend everybody who would like to support the Great Peace Journey economically to contact Sweden Today. They would help you to transfer money and also to tell you where to get a peace flower and to get information about Great Peace Journey.
Paper manufacturing has always been one of the greatest export products of Sweden. For hundreds of years, the Swedish forests have provided the raw material for this historical exporting success. The production of paper by hand is still alive in one place of our country. In this report, we shall visit Lessebo hand paper manufacturers in Småland, where this method is still being used exclusively. The old craft of making paper by hand has been followed in Lessebo since 1693. It is the only place in Sweden where this old craft is still in operation. The paper is made today in the same way it was made 300 years ago. The old method of manufacture can be clearly seen on the premises at Lessebo. Cotton pulp, which is manufactured from the shells of cotton seed, is ground in this vat. Afterwards, the fibers are left to swell until the pulp has reached the desired consistency. When the pulp is considered to be ready, it is put through a sand table, which takes up sand and other impurities which may be present in the pulp. The pulp is then ready for the making of paper. There is always a watermark in handmade paper, and this is created by shaping the desired motif from a wire, which is then fastened to a mold. The process of making the paper demands great professional skill. The mold is dipped into a vat, and just the right amount of pulp is taken up. The mold is shaken so that the pulp is evenly spread over the surface. The size and form of the sheet of paper can be controlled with the help of the wooden frame. The sheet of pulp is then carefully placed on a filter to dry. The finished pile of paper and filters are pressed hydraulically so that any water remaining is pressed out. Over the years, many visitors have had the chance to try their hand at making a few sheets of paper. Here we see a member of the Swedish Parliament who has just created his first sheet of paper. The finished but still damp paper is separated from the filter so that it can be weighed and then transported to the drying machine.
This is the drying machine, which was introduced into the mill in 1922. It consists of two cylinders, which are heated with steam up to about 80 degrees centigrade, and the paper is placed, as you see, onto a revolving felt, and the paper is then pressed hard against the cylinders, it goes under one cylinder, up behind bands, over the top cylinder, and then drops out at the back dried. And this paper that we're drying today is watercolor paper, and after the drying process is completely ready.
Finally, the paper is cut and folded by hand to the required size. The handmade paper is now ready to leave the premises, where it will remind us in many different ways of the survival of a fascinating craft from the end of the 17th century. All fans of the Olympics are looking forward with excitement to Lausanne in Switzerland in the middle of October. 90 members of the International Olympic Committee will be meeting there to decide the venue of the 1992 Winter Olympics. France has applied for the town Albertville, Norway for Lillehammer, but Sweden believes that Falun and Åre are the most suitable. We are going to meet the Olympic general Lars Eggerts in Falun.
Well, Lars Eggerts, Falun Åre has 2 times before being candidate for the Winter Olympic Games. Why should you succeed this time?
Well, of course, we hope to succeed. In Sweden, we used to say, third time lucky. That's, of course, no guarantee, but we think, as we say in our slogan, now it's time for Sweden.
Mm-hmm. And what about the investments?
Well, since we were candidates last time for the 1988 Games, some of them has already been done. For example, the new press center, the high school at the Lugnet Sports Center is already there, and in fact we don't have so very much more to do regarding investments in venues in the sports center and so forth. The only venue we don't have yet is the Bob and Lucha Run, and that will cost us about 55 million Swedish crowns. That means 8 to 9 million US dollars, and that's the only venue we have to build.
How many people do you expect shall be here during the Games?
We expect some 800,000 spectators for the whole period of 12 to 14 days. But then the teams will be some 2,100 up to 2,500 people.
If you get the Games, what do you think it will mean for Sweden?
For a small country as ours, I think there is no other thing which would focus the word interest as an Olympic game.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you have a realistic budget for the Games now for the moment?
Oh yes, oh yes. Our total budget is about 185 million US dollars, and we are sure that this is a safe budget.
Every day we receive letters from almost all over the world, and we really like to get suggestions for different programs. So, dear viewers, keep on writing, and we'll answer your letter and enclose a small present from Sweden. So, our program nears its end. We thank you for being with us, and we hope you will watch us next time. Carola, one of our most popular artists here in Sweden, is going to close the program. She has been successfully presented internationally, and we enjoy her singing here in Sweden. She's going to sing one of her latest hits, Brand New Heart. Bye for now, and thank you.